David Bossie, former Trump deputy campaign manager, is also a Fox News contributor. David, good evening to you.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks for being here, as always. I guess to jump forward for a moment, the Papadopoulos issue, you were on the campaign when he was there. Did you know him?
First, no, he was not there when I was there. I came on at the end of the campaign, Martha. As you remember, Steve Bannon and Kellyanne Conway came on in mid-August, and I came on just after. So,
all right. So you weren't there until September, and he was there in March.
Never heard of him.
So did you ever interact with him at all? Never heard of him.
Never heard of him.
Okay. The concern that he may have been wearing a wire, that he may have still been involved in talking to people at the campaign. What do you think about that?
I think that's far-fetched. Look, no one knows, but, the campaign ended, almost a year ago now. So I think that the potential of him wearing a wire at the campaign, I don't see where this investigation would have been at any stage to have done that, first. And secondly, I wish he was, because there was no collusion. So I think that would be a nice thing to be able to prove to people.
In terms of some of the other reports that are out there tonight, one says that the White House is more concerned about Rick Gates because he maintained his relationships longer than Paul Manafort did with people at the White House, and also that they were relieved that it was not Michael Flynn today. But, of course, that could still come.
Well, anything is possible, Martha, but obviously Rick Gates and Paul Manafort ran the campaign for about 8 weeks. They were in charge, and they were there a little bit before Paul Manafort actually took over, but they were there for about 8 weeks in charge, and I can just submit to you that when I got there at the end of August, there was nothing to do, no discussion whatsoever about Russia collusion, anything like that. It just is far-fetched, and I understand why the president is frustrated because he can only say there was no collusion so many times, and then you look at the Uranium One deal, you look at what's going on with the DNC and others paying for this mysterious dossier. Now, there's a lot of questions about that in actual fact, and there's none as it comes to out of this two indictments and this guilty plea. Nothing to do with the campaign or collusion.
Yeah, we're going to dig into that a bit more in a moment. Just a question for you, because a lot of people said today that this was not a big surprise. When you looked at the indictments and you looked at the conspiracy charges that were laid out in this indictment, that a lot of people knew that Paul Manafort had a lot of business relationships that they thought were questionable. So when you were observing all of this, and you were, sort of in the larger circle throughout it before you came on, did you think it was a mistake to hire him in the first place?
I did. To be honest with you, Martha, I don't know Paul Manafort well at all. But I know that I personally didn't think he was the delegate hunter, the right mix, the right makeup for the campaign. He hadn't been involved. I thought of that not because of his business dealings, just because he hadn't been involved in a campaign really since the advent of the fax machine. Yeah. So I was kind of somebody who was surprised that he would be in charge.
There's one quote from him saying to one of his Russian clients, an oligarch, Deripaska, since I'm now associated with the campaign, maybe we can help me get whole on this. What do you think about that? Do you think he was using his relationship with the campaign to continue to get money out of his relationships in Ukraine?
Yeah, again, that's what it sounds like, Martha. It sounds like people who have a little tiny bit of access in one case. But in Paul Manafort, he was obviously, the campaign manager. And he is somebody who obviously was trying to had other business dealings that he was trying to move forward, obviously.
And that's one of the reasons he was no longer with the campaign after about 8 weeks when all that started coming out. David, always good to see you. Thank you very much.
Thanks for having me.